All right, so it's a Kickin lawyer, Jerry Mason here again, and today I'm going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart and that I'm experiencing a lot. In the beginning of the whole lawyer journey, I really struggled with it, and that is going from a police officer, which is enforcing the laws and arresting people, to a criminal defense lawyer who is trying to protect people's rights and then a lot of times getting them out of the issues and out of the incidents that involve the law enforcement entanglements. And I've caught a lot of I get a lot of questions about this. Let's just say that I have a lot of for 12 years of my life I was involved in law enforcement, and even after that for several years I have done still defensive tactics or trial prep training or DUI training or something like that for the police still. And a lot of my very close friends, they're really like brothers and family to me, are still in law enforcement. And I recently had a case, luckily we kind of got a win on it again, that I had to cross-examine some law enforcement that are literally like family. Like one in particular I'm probably closer to him than my own brothers. I mean, it's a very close deal. And I caught a little flack from, maybe it was just good-natured cheering, but because we did a good job and had a good outcome for our client, I got some flack from how I very aggressively cross-examined these cop friends of mine. So, that does put me in a unique position. One, I'm good at the criminal defense largely because I do know how the law enforcement work, and then now I understand how the lawyer side of it works, and so I see loopholes, I think, a lot of times that some criminal defense attorneys may not see just from the fact that they didn't have the experience of actually being there and doing what the police did. So sometimes the police will take shortcuts, and I know that they did because that's what I did, so it's not like I'm saying they're terrible people or terrible cops because they just don't have the time that I have to dissect the case that they're building, especially in that short time frame or when they're really exhausted and they've worked a long shift or gotten in a fight or whatever it is, So I say that first. Second thing I'd say, I love law enforcement. Like I get flack all the time from guys that were just straight up defense lawyers or on the defense side all the time that have a little animosity almost towards cops. I love the police. I still feel like a police officer, even though I know a lot of them think now, to a cop's perspective, a defense lawyer is like the lowest of the low. Like from a cop's perspective, you're tearing everything apart they've built. You're getting these terrible people out and back on the street. From a cop's perspective, a criminal defense lawyer specifically is like the lowest of the low. You can't get worse than that. I know that. And that's why I fought with it. And throughout law school, they kept making me do like the defense side a lot of times because I was so biased against the criminal defendants. So I realized that, and I understand how that bias exists, and it was very hard for me to break. And they did that in law school to make me do the other side so much because as an attorney, you do have to be able to do both sides. I have a duty regardless of which side I'm on. Whether I was the prosecutor, I would work just as fervently and hard to get a good outcome for the state. Just like as a criminal defense lawyer, I'm working just as hard as I can to get a good outcome for the client, to defend their rights and fight. And plus, I'm super competitive. Like, I just can't stand to lose. And so, it works well as an attorney because, I'll do whatever extra work is necessary usually to try to go into the battle a lot more prepared, just like I always did in martial arts. But, it is what it is. So, why? How am I able to sleep at night? By getting folks off and things like that. Well, number one is the Constitution. The Constitution says that if you're accused of a criminal offense, you are entitled to an attorney. And not an attorney that's just going to, walk into the buzzsaw. You're entitled to an attorney that is going to fervently advocate for your interest. Now, that doesn't always mean they can get you off, but if they can, that's what they're supposed to try to do, is make sure that you get justice and your rights are protected, And you don't want somebody that's going to come in and just get walked over by the state, because the whole purpose of that being in the Constitution was because our forefathers realized that the state power has to have checks and balances on it. We, defense lawyers, are a check on that power. if there is no check, the police could just come in and do whatever they wanted to do, and who's going to buck up about it? I'm not saying they would, but if you don't have that check there, they could. And the DAs, the state could come in, or even federal level could come in and prosecute you and not have to have that much proof. Just push it on through and you get charged with whatever, or your family gets charged with whatever, or friends and family does. There are people that are wrongly accused. And if you don't have criminal defense lawyers that are willing to buck up onto the system and hold the state to the burden they're supposed to bear, and this includes the police officers, then the whole system doesn't work. So I know it seems like, oh, those nasty criminal defense lawyers, or at least that's what the cops think a lot of times. But if you do your job, if you're a cop and you're watching this, because I love you, I'm telling you right now, if you're a cop, I love you, I feel for you, I've been there, I've done it. I've done the standing in the rain and cold, doing traffic. I've done the going and finding hurt kids and stuff. I've done the having to go arrest people that you really wanted to do other stuff to because you saw the video of what they did to some kid or something. I have been there, okay? I understand. I know the stresses. I know how you come home, your family doesn't understand, and I get it, right? But if we don't do our job, if we don't have the ability to advocate, then you could really do whatever. You could go whoop that dude thinking that he did whatever he did when, that's not how due process works. That's not how our nation is set up. And that's part of what makes our nation so unique. I mean, there are other nations where they give certain rights, but, a lot of modern democracy and modern criminal justice systems are set up sort of around the way ours was. I mean, they take bits and pieces from different ones, but I think we have a very stable criminal justice system because even I hate to say it, but the worst of the worst, they're entitled to a good defense. So that means that the police and the district attorneys should have pressure on them to do a good job because you have good defense lawyers on the other side pressuring them to make sure they're carrying that burden. Because when they go to court, they better be ready, because I'm going to be ready to do what I can to help protect my client's interests. And if they do their job correctly and the burden is carried, my guy goes to jail anyway, guy or girl, So they have to carry their burden, and it's a very big deal to me. A lot of people think, well, my family wouldn't do that. You never know. I mean, you don't know how you get hemmed up and stuff. You may, be riding with your cousin and not know your cousin's got something on you, get stopped, and all of a sudden you get arrested too, and they want you to plead to something, mess your whole life up, and lose your job just because you're with somebody. You need somebody who's going to advocate for you, and that's what I do. So ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to. There's a constitutional right to an attorney, and not a crappy attorney, but an attorney that's really going to fervently defend somebody's rights when they're accused of something by the state, to make sure they get due process. Due process is essential in our criminal justice system. It's guaranteed under the Constitution, and everybody has a right to that. Like I said, the worst of the worst. And I am a private attorney. The last case that this one I was mentioning earlier was appointed, so I really don't make any money on it. Matter of fact, my partner was appointed, so I really don't make any money. He's getting paid. I just did it because we're competitive and our firm was on it, and we want to do a good job for all our clients, and we got a good outcome. But I'm not making any money on it, So it's not even that's the motivation. The motivation is I have a license hanging up on my wall that is very important to me, and I really fervently try to hold to the duty that I swore to do, and that is to protect my client's interests, whether it's in divorces or custody cases or criminal defense, whatever it is. Our firm takes that duty seriously. So I apologize if, as an attorney, if you're a cop watching this, especially in our area, if I've cross-examined you and hurt your feelings some. I hope that you don't hold it against me. But I'm just doing my job just like you are. You're trying to do your job. So if we both do a good job, the justice system works. Just don't get mad at me, if I'm ready. So just know if you face the Kickin lawyer, you better be ready. All right. And shout out to I won't bust him out. I was going to bust out my buddy, but he got mad last time I mentioned him on here, so I won't do that again. Anyway, if you need something, any kind of legal assistance, our firm would be glad to help you. We do operate in West Tennessee and Arkansas, and we have a network of attorneys throughout the area, so you can always holler at me, and we'll see if we can help you out. You can email me, or you can go to our website, several of them, kickinlawyer.com, links to it, it's easy to go to, And then, of course, like, subscribe, and comment at your leisure. I've had a lot of people recently comment and liking it. And as I mentioned on my previous video, if you look through some stuff, you can figure out how to get a free t-shirt, Kickin Lawyer t-shirt sent to you directly on my dime. So anyway, thanks for your time. I appreciate your view. You stay safe.